Tonight the skies above the Middle East are alive with fire as Iran launches a full-scale assault on Israel, marking one of the most dramatic escalations in decades. Radar screens across the region are glowing with activity as waves of Iranian drones, ballistic missiles, and cruise weapons stream across the border, targeting military bases, airfields, and strategic infrastructure across Israel in what appears to be a coordinated strike operation. Iranian state media is calling this operation divine retribution, saying it is a response to recent Israeli actions in Syria and Lebanon. As the first reports come in from Tel Aviv and Haifa, sirens are wailing across the country. Iron Dome batteries are engaging incoming threats, interceptors streaking into the night sky, leaving white trails as explosions ripple overhead. Eyewitnesses describe scenes of chaos, people rushing to shelters, cars abandoned in the streets as emergency vehicles race toward impact zones in northern and central Israel. Early reports suggest multiple impacts on military sites near Dimona and Nevatim Air Base, the home of Israel's F-35 Iadar stealth fighter fleet, though Israeli military sources have not confirmed the extent of the damage. The Israeli Defense Forces have declared a nationwide state of emergency, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who convening the war cabinet in an underground command bunker beneath Tel Aviv. Netanyahu, who has vowed a massive and immediate response, saying in a televised address, "Iran has crossed a red line tonight, and they will face the full force of the Israeli Defense Forces." His tone was grim, his expression tense. Behind him stood senior generals from the Air Force and Intelligence Directorate, their faces unreadable as the magnitude of what has just begun sinks in. Iran's Revolutionary Guard, meanwhile, released footage showing the launch of ballistic missiles from undisclosed silos deep within Iranian territory. State television broadcast images of long-range Ahmad and Desful missiles streaking into the night sky as crowds chanted death to Israel. Reports from U.S. and NATO intelligence sources indicate that more than 200 projectiles were fired within the first 2 hours of the assault, with many targeting air defense installations and command centers. Israel's Arrow 3 and David Sling defense systems have been activated across the entire nation in what Israeli commanders describe as the largest air defense engagement in history. In Washington, the White House has called for an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. President has condemned the attack, urging both sides to de-escalate while reaffirming the United States' ironclad commitment to Israel's defense. American early warning satellites reportedly detected the launches within minutes, passing real-time targeting data to Israeli command via secure channels. U.S. Air Force assets, including F-15Es and B-1B bombers, have been placed on high alert at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar and in Sirlik in Turkey, as contingency measures are reviewed. Pentagon officials say U.S. naval strike groups in the eastern Mediterranean are repositioning to provide missile defense coverage for Israeli coastal regions. As the night continues, explosions are being reported across southern Lebanon and western Syria, as Israeli aircraft retaliate with wave after wave of airstrikes. Sources within the Lebanese government say dozens of Israeli F-16, Isufa and F-35 fighters have crossed the border, targeting Hezbollah rocket depots, command centers, and supply routes leading into the Bekaa Valley. The sky is described as lit by continuous flashes as anti-aircraft guns open fire. Hezbollah has announced it is joining the conflict, launching hundreds of rockets toward northern Israel, intensifying fears of a regional war in Tehran. The mood is defiant. Massive crowds are gathering in Azadi Square, waving Iranian flags, chanting slogans, and celebrating the strikes against Israel. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has declared that the Zionist regime will no longer feel safe in its occupied lands, and praised the Revolutionary Guard for their execution of what he called a long-overdue punishment. Iranian state-run news outlets claim their missiles successfully hit Hive al targets, including Israeli intelligence headquarters near Tel Aviv. A claim the IDF categorically denies, calling it propaganda mean. While reports from Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia describe nervous governments closely monitoring developments with their air forces on alert, radar stations are tracking missile and aircraft movements as fears grow that the conflict could spill across borders. Diplomatic channels are active, But sources say few expect de-escalation. Tonight, Saudi state media reports that debris from an intercepted missile landed near the northern border, prompting temporary closures of civilian airspace over parts of the kingdom. The United Arab Emirates has issued a similar notice rerouting all commercial flights away from Israeli and Iranian airspace. As dawn approaches, Israel's counteroffensive appears to be fully underway. Satellite imagery shows smoke rising from Iranian positions in Syria, particularly near Damascus and the T4 airbase, which hosts Iranian drone operations. Early battlefield assessments suggest dozens of Israeli precision strikes using Rampage air-to-ground missiles and spy-guided bombs. The IDF spokesperson said the Israeli Air Force has entered a sustained campaign against Iranian targets wherever they exist. This language mirrors that of previous operations, but tonight's scale is far beyond anything seen before in the coastal city of Ashdod. Footage shows the aftermath of a missile strike on a logistics terminal, flames towering hundreds of feet into the air. Emergency crews working frantically to contain the blaze. Civilian casualties are being reported, though numbers remain unclear. Hospitals across Israel have moved to emergency protocols, treating injuries from shrapnel and blast waves. Humanitarian organizations are calling for as social media fills with unverified footage of explosions across multiple cities. Confusion reigns, and the sense of vulnerability is palpable. Regional analysts are warning that this may represent the opening phase of a much larger confrontation, one that could draw in the United States, NATO, and possibly Russia, given Moscow's long-standing ties to Iran and presence in Syria. Israeli security officials are reportedly in contact with Washington and London, discussing joint intelligence and potential logistical support, while the U.S. Navy's Aegis-equipped destroyers in the Mediterranean prepare for potential missile interception duties. Intelligence chatter also indicates that cyber operations are underway, both sides attempting to disrupt communications and command systems, as the digital front mirrors the intensity of physical battle. As we move into morning hours across the Middle East, the world is watching anxiously. Global markets are already reacting. Oil prices surging as traders brace for the potential closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Experts warn that a prolonged conflict could destabilize the entire region and send shockwaves through global energy supplies. United Nations officials have called for restraint, but the Security Council remains divided. Western nations back Israel's right to defend itself, while Iran insists it is responding to years of Israeli aggression and covert attacks on its nuclear and military facilities. The situation is fluid. Air raid sirens continue to sound across Israel as new waves of Iranian drones are detected approaching from the east, while Israeli F-15s and F-35 streak toward the skies above the Negev desert, launching intercepts and counterstrikes in a deadly ballet of modern air warfare. In this moment, the balance of power in the Middle East may be shifting. The world holds its breath as the skies of conflict blaze once again over the cradle of civilization.